So some of you are in like a weird abusive relationship with your child's school. I keep seeing it again and again, and it is a very, very strange pattern that I only ever really see in romantic relationships, like ones that people should leave. By the way, I hit my snooze alarm this morning, which is why I'm doing this in the car. You live and you learn, or you just live and you keep doing this and hitting a snooze alarm. Anyway, if you need something in a relationship, and I'm talking about a need, not a want, like basic physical safety, basic mental safety, and you state your needs, although those needs are very, very obvious because they're just human rights, you state your needs in that relationship and you are repeatedly ignored to your own detriment, like it affects your physical and mental health and your day-to-day life. You're repeatedly ignored, and then one day you go, you know what, screw this, I'm not in it anymore, and you leave. And then the other party who has been ignoring your basic human needs for this whole time suddenly runs after you and is crying and is upset and is like, oh no, I'll do stuff now, I promise. Do you think it's a good idea to go back to that relationship? Do you think it's likely they're going to change, or do you think it's likely they're promising stuff to get you back for their own benefit? Secondly, even if they did change, do you want to be in a relationship with someone where you spend time together every day, where they only change their behaviour to meet your very basic needs when it suits them or when they feel under threat from you walking away? Because that doesn't sound like a very caring relationship to me. It sounds like manipulation. If my friend was with someone who constantly treated them poorly and then they eventually left after like begging and having talks and talking themselves to death basically, and it had a really negative consequence on them, and so they left the relationship and their partner came after them like, oh, I'll change, and they said to me, what should I do? I'll be like, mate, no, there's 7 or 8 billion people in the world, like, you don't need that person. They're primarily and completely looking out for their own self-interest, even when that looks like now giving you something, like it's still in their self-interest, because only now when they're standing to lose something have they changed. So if your child is being bullied or their needs are not being met in school, and then you eventually get so sick of asking and begging for the just appropriate baseline treatment, and then you deregister, and then the school comes after you promising XYZ, have a really long, hard think about whether or not you want to engage in that conversation. Because I'm increasingly seeing parents, and this has always happened, it's just that now it's more coming to the forefront because education is such a hot topic, and there are spaces such as this, such as my account, where we can publicly discuss education and the pitfalls of it, or rather institutionalised education such as school. There are these cases where parents are begging repeatedly just for their child's basic needs to be met, and it's not happening. And when they deregister, there is a flurry of activity, a whole big list of promises and plans, and now we'll do this and that. And it's, you know what, is a lot of the time it's too little too late. Don't feel bad for saying no when the bare minimum efforts are made, or even if there's quite considerable effort made, when it's too late. If you made your feelings and your needs heard and clear and they were repeatedly ignored, you do not have to then take whatever they are offering after the fact. And I will say this, I don't believe it's always the school's fault. I think that schools are usually massively under-resourced, and that is why significant issues go undealt with. But even if something is not your fault, it can still be your responsibility. And legally, the well-being, the physical and mental well-being of children within schools who are registered within schools are the responsibility of the school. And legally, they need to provide that service. And whatever the reason, it's actually, as a parent, not your problem why your child is being failed within school. It is your responsibility as a parent, always 100%, to ensure that your child is mentally and physically well, as much as you ever can. So if outsourcing their education and day-to-day life to school is not working, it is your responsibility as a parent to then say, okay, alternative action is needed. But don't feel bullied or pressured into staying with a school that has repeatedly failed to meet your child's basic needs. If you have deregistered, it is very likely you have done everything possible to try and get those needs met, and it's time to move on.